and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be trying out the new Isamaya Industrial Palette. This is a new brand that has been started by a professional makeup artist who has worked with all the large brands out there. She's also done makeup for runway shows as well as magazines, and she's actually currently the global beauty director of Burberry Beauty, and she is the visionary behind Byredo's iconic makeup collection. And there's a quote on the website that I want to read, which is kind of what the brand stands for, and she says, "I don't want to tell people how they should look. It's about using makeup to return to who you are and not become something else." Isamaya French. So I think that gives you a little bit of an idea of this brand. They definitely have some really just interesting packaging. I'm just gonna say interesting because it's really out there. It's a little bit on the edgy side. So this is what the eyeshadow palette is. Like, look at that. This is just so cool. Now I don't have any Byredo palettes, but I have seen them, and this definitely gives kind of like similar vibes. And then this is what the inside color story looks like. I will put up some swatches, and this palette is just full of different textures, and that's really what captured me. Is I saw the inside and I was like, I need to try this formula. I love eyeshadow. I love trying out eyeshadow. I do lots and lots of eyeshadow content, lots of tutorials on my channel. So that's why I really wanted to pick this up, and I did pick this up on pre-order, and it is on the expensive side. So this palette is like $119, I do believe. And then there's a couple of other products, but the only other product that I got is the mascara, and this is the Rubber Lash Latex Lift Mascara. And I did put this one on earlier, but this is not what the video is about. I'm going to do a dedicated video on this with a wear test, so stay tuned for that, probably later this week. And it does have this little like nose ring, but you know, everyone's thinking it's something else because it really does look something else. And the other packaging has this on it as well, and I think you're supposed to be able to like use it if you want to. There's this little ball that pops in, and it keeps falling out the moment I grab this, and I try to twist it open, the ball just falls out. So that's something that's like slightly annoying. I almost wish it was actually somewhere else on the packaging so it wasn't in the way, but the packaging is really cool. It actually reminds me of the most recent mascara from Milk Makeup. It also had like a silicone case on it almost, so if you can see that it just kind of comes off, and that's what this is attached to. So you could technically take this off if you wanted to. Now mine is covered in sparkles already because my desk is always covered in sparkles. So the packaging is like soft touch matte black cover, but it's not sparkly. So just the close-up shows sparkle, but there's no sparkle. I really wanted to use as many shimmers from the palette as possible for the two looks. So let's get right into it. Primed with the MAC Soft Ochre primer. Going in with Fetish, which I do believe based on the naming on the back. I always don't know like if it's reflected, so it's either Fetish or it's this shade right here. Focus. I just never know. This is why I hate like when names are on the back, but I do understand for looks it's obviously nicer without it. I'm going to be doing some more editorial kind of looks, so I'm just taking this and I'm going to be creating like a super smudgy eyeshadow wing, and I just really want to layer as many shadows as possible for both of the looks, so kind of try to use like pretty much almost all of the shades, if you will. And this shade is a little bit similar to like a cream to powder. I would compare it to Natasha Denona's. It's a little squishy in the pan, and as you can see, it does take like a bit to build up, so it's not like fully pigmented right off the bat like a powder shadow. Well, some powder shadows. So I'm just kind of winging it out, like really going to wing it out just for funsies, because I feel like this is really what this palette is about. They really weren't trying to appeal to the general audience. Cough cough, Pat McGrath, cough cough. I'm just gonna relax my eye and make sure that this right here kind of clears that, so I'm just gonna bring it a little higher, and I'm gonna just build on a little bit more near closer to my lash line. This also reminds me of the black shade that's in the Devinah Myricks Lightworks 3 palette. There's also like a similar kind of black shade that's supposed to be for basically just layering a bunch of shadows. So I think I'm just going to be using my finger for the most part. I might use a tacky primer for the other eye just to see like how much of a difference. I'm kind of thinking greens on this side, so I'm going to try to layer like, see. Well, I kind of want copper too. I'm kind of thinking, I'm just going to start. I'm kind of thinking copper in the center. So I'm taking this copper shade. I think you can kind of tell obviously which shade I'm dipping into. And I'm just using my finger, and I'm going to kind of bring it up into my crease. And that's just going right in the center. And just a little bit like really just sparkles everywhere. This one is like a nice shimmery, not too sparkly, but definitely has some sparkle to it. And then next to it, I'm going to go in with this green shade, just again with my pinky, and that's going to be layered over the black and into the bronzy shade. Just going back in with the bronzy shade a little bit. And then I'm thinking maybe like the darker green. So this one, I think I'm gonna need the brush. I'm gonna be using this brush to pick it up. So hopefully it puts it down, and hopefully I won't have too much. No, I definitely feel like I need some sort of like tack to it. So I'm just gonna mist this brush a little bit to help kind of pick it up and put it down. But definitely think a glitter primer or some sort of a tacky primer will be helpful, especially if you want to avoid fallout that I'm getting. So I'm just kind of putting that. This shade is a little bit more in the satin side. So, not loving this one. Just, you know, I prefer the sparkle. And then hopefully this just blends away. Oh, good, okay. Got me a little frayed there for a second. And I'm going to take this shade and I'm going to put it underneath my lower lash line. And I'm definitely going to spray this one just to get like the most impact. And by spraying, I always mean I'm just misting it really. So I'm just taking that. Oh, that is such a pretty shade. This one also almost looks like a indie shadow that I might have. Ooh, I really like the way that one looks. And then I'm actually going to go in with this other duochrome. Actually, do I want to go in with this shade or do I want to go in with this shade? This shade is also like a topper. Well, let me just swatch them real quick. So this is that one. It looks wet. Actually, I kind of want to layer it. I'm going to layer this in the center. Let's just see if it will like amp this up. Actually, I'm going to put it under my brow here. We're just getting real messy. And then here as well. So it kind of just looks wet there. So that is super, super like dispersed sparkle. And it does look definitely wet. Let me just put on a little bit more just because I can't stop now. And then I'm gonna use this other duochrome light shade. You see how light that is? So yeah, I'm gonna use this one as my inner corner highlight. Let's see how that is. It's got a lot of yellow to it too. It's almost like green with yellow base. And I'm going to bring that up in here actually. And that just really brightened it up in there. I do like how this came out. I do kind of want to smudge. I'm going to use that shimmer that I used here, and I'm just going to kind of use it to smudge this out, the edges of this. Just kind of want it to be a little bit messy. The theme on this eye is messy. We'll see about the other eye. To finish off this look, I put on the Unearthly Immortal lashes. I'm going in with the other like creamy to powder matte shadow. It has a little bit of like blue sheen to it. It's almost identical to the other shade, so I honestly don't feel like these two needed to be in there, especially because now that I'm putting it on, like I feel like the blue gets completely lost. I did already prime with the soft ochre paint pot, so maybe it just needed a different primer, but I don't feel like this and the other shade really make a difference. This one for me feels a little less squishy than the other one. The other one's definitely more malleable than this one. But I'm just gonna kind of blend this all over my crease. I'm just gonna blend this just kind of all over. I'm not gonna create like a shape or anything like on the other eye. I'm trying to make this one just a little bit more controlled, but again, we'll see. I might get out of it's just I want it to be like very like grungy. Very grungy. And that's actually blending out like really nicely, really fun. Which usually these kind of cream to powder shadows do tend to do that. There's definitely a little bit of a dent, but do you see like there's barely a sheen? If anything, that's probably just from my brush. So let me just go back in my finger Seems to be the most effective, and it doesn't even say on the back to apply with fingers or a brush. But the fact that it says fingers is just like, yeah, it's probably trying to tell us something. And then I'm also connecting my lower lash line with that, but just a little bit, just on the outer edge here. I feel like you can see the blue sheen a bit more there. And then going back in just out here. I feel like I lost a little bit of the shadow there. But this is giving me like serious like industrial grungy vibes for sure. I kind of want to go in with like a powder and just to feather these edges. But look at that, that's pretty nice. I really want to use this sparkly shade and this sparkly shade and then the purple iridescent shade kind of under the brow, like a little brow highlight. So let's do that. I think I'm going to go in with a primer. So I'm taking the NYX glitter primer and I'm just going to put a thin layer right all over the lid and kind of tap it a little bit into my crease. And then I usually like to go in with my pinky and just tap out the edges to make sure there's no harsh edges. And then that's nice and ready now. So I'm going to go in first with this. Ooh, look at how sparkly. I'm definitely going to have fallout from this probably. Ooh, I don't know. I'm trying to be gentle. I can see the fallout. This is like a really nice just gunmetal shade, and then above that I'm going to go in with the light silver shade, or the slightly lighter silver rather, and it's going to go like right above it. And then I'm going to use my brush with a little bit of it on the brush and just blend it out. I should have probably done my eyes first. I kind of had a feeling, but I was like trying to save time since I'm not going to be able to film tomorrow, since I'm actually going into the office and I'm really not looking forward to it. I'm going to take it down into the center of the lid just to add like a little bit of a highlight there. And then let me see if I can just blend this away. Yeah, for the most part. For the most part. And then underneath the lower lash line I'm going to go in with this shade. And I did miss my brush. Ooh, this is coming off super brown actually. And it has just like a little hint of something something. Actually, I kind of want to blend it into the edge here of the gray. Actually, I really like these two kind of blended together. And then I'm going to take my pinky, my trusty pinky, and I'm going to go in with this iridescent purple shade. And that's just going to go like right where my brow is, like underneath my brow. Oh yeah, super like alien vibes. And then I'm gonna also use it on the inner corner. I'm just taking it, just really just getting in there with my fingers. I feel like my usual self is cringing, but it's kind of fun to sometimes just get up in there like this. So I think that's all I'm gonna do. I used pretty much all the shades, I think, except for 2 shades. I also don't even remember which is. I think I didn't use like these 2 or one of these 2, but I used like all the other shades. So I feel like I have a good idea on like how they layer and stuff. To finish off this look, I put on the Blend Bunny Cosmetics Wings Lashes. The lipstick I put on is the Velvet Decade from Lisa Eldridge. I felt like it kind of went in with the grunginess of both the looks, even though they're pretty different. But I really feel like these are super fun. Just lots of layering. You have so many different textures to really play with in here. Is this like an everyday palette? Depends on your makeup style. I definitely think this is a little bit more on the editorial side. So I'm thinking leaning more Denisa Myricks and like less Pat McGrath. But that being said, I do think you could create some really easy one and done looks, especially because some of these shimmers just have really beautiful finishes on the lid. So you could just go in with like a brown matte that you already own in the crease and then throw one of these on the lid. And I think it would be really beautiful and it could feel more wearable, especially with some of these kind of champagne tones, as well as some of the duochromes. There are, I would say, about 2.5-ish topper shades. So this shade right here, which is what I have right up here is definitely more of a topper. It's like an iridescent purple shadow. And then this right here is just like such an interesting, it's almost like the Astral shades from Pat McGrath, but even finer and even more translucent. Like, you really can't build these up too much. They're just going to give you a really beautiful finish. This is definitely a wet look type of shadow. And then the other shade in here that is pretty kind of, you know, you could definitely layer it and amp it up. That's a shade I have in this inner corner. So like, I think if you put it on top of a green, like a dark green or even the black, I think you could amp this up a bit, but it does have a little bit of like a sheer base to it. It's got like a yellow green duochrome to it. And then I think you can kind of tell from the pan that this shade right here, as well as this one, they're just like the sparkliest out of all of these. They just really have that like beautiful texture without texturizing the lid. Like, I don't think any of these accentuated by skin texture, which is amazing. I do think that personally, I prefer to use some sort of a tacky primer to just really get the full color payoff because of my personal preference in eyeshadows. I feel like some of these felt a little flat when I used them with the brush. I just feel like they were just a little bit more like satin versus like shimmery and sparkly. But I knew that buying the palette, I wanted to just try out all the different textures that are in here. I'm a little bit mixed on the cream to powder mattes in here. I just really don't think that we need to, especially for the price. For an over $100 palette, I don't think we need to really basically black cream to powder shades. This one just does not look different enough. It has a little bit of that like bluey sheen to it. Honestly, you would have to work really hard to really like show that, because they're gonna look the same, and also that's gonna kind of blend away as you're using it. So you would have to like pack it on and be really strategic about it if you really wanted to bring it out. I just felt like this shade is kind of, I hate to say it, but almost like kind of like useless. Like, I just feel like this shade was really good idea to have in here. So I think I would have switched this out for maybe like a cream to powder brown shade, maybe like a warmer tone shade, or maybe cooler tone. I think the cooler tone for some of these other shades down here, specifically these kind of charcoal shades, but also warm, because there's definitely like, this one is warm tone and then this one is warm tone. So I think I would have switched this one out. So whether or not you pick up this palette, I think it's going to totally depend on you. And if you want to spend the money on something like this, is it fun? Yes, you get to try out a bunch of different textures and really play around with layering. You can bring in your own matte eyeshadows. There's definitely a little bit of fallout with some of these shades. I would recommend doing your eyes before your foundation, specifically if you're using some of the more sparkly shades, because now I have dots all over my face that will not come off, even though I set most of my face, but they won't come off. You can also just use your fingers like I did in the first look, and you will definitely get these to be a little bit more foiled that way as well. As for the mascara, I'm not going to say much because you guys stay tuned for my video, because I definitely want to do a full wear test, but I won't be able to film it until Thursday, so expect a video either Friday or Saturday of this week. And let me know in the comments below if you picked this palette up or you plan on picking it up. I would love to hear your thoughts on what you think of it so far. And I do have lots of eyeshadow tutorials uploading my channel, as well as lots of sparkly, shiny, shifty eyeshadow content, and I will put it up on the screen so you can keep watching.